The Flash, yeah, The Flash, baby. Episode 20, Season 8, Season Finale. Negative, Part 2. It's your boy Icon with a little DC TV. And happy 4th of July weekend to everybody. And instead of being on the beach, soaking up some of that good sunshine, I'm here reviewing the season finale of The Flash. At least for now. So, in this particular episode, because we've reached the end of The Flash, Season 8, which was supposed to be the final season. This was supposed to be the series finale, but we're getting a Season 9, so kudos to that. And kudos to The Flash because you beat Arrow. Arrow, so far, was the longest running television series, but I'm talking about after Smallville. Arrow was the longest running superhero TV show for both DC and Marvel. Like Legends of Shield. Agents of Shield ended with 7 seasons. You know, they were the closest up until The Flash pulled up. But now once The Flash starts, you know, like in the fall or in like the winter or whatever, they start again in season 9, they would have surpassed Arrow, and The Flash is now the current longest running superhero television show. So in this particular episode, it picks up where we left off when Iris just died, dear God. And after Iris died, you know, it's very hard to say that. You know, like Barry was upset, and then like Thawne was there, you know, because remember, like he had ripped over the other earbud, and then he was talking to the Flash, and he was just like, oh, the death of your mother birthed the Flash, and the death of Iris rebirthed the Reverse Flash. So he was like, those broads were good for something. And then Barry got mad, and he blasted him, and he tried to kill him. And then as soon as he tried to kill him, his kids came up out of nowhere, and they were just like, Dad, don't do it, you know, like he's not worth it. And then Barry was like, he killed Iris, and I'm like, yeah, he killed Iris. Then Nora was like, oh, if you do this, Dad, you won't be no better than he is. I'm like, shut up, like he killed Iris. And then they said, they're just like, oh, you know, Mom's not dead, she's still alive, because she said that if Mom was, both of them said, they said if Mom was really dead, then we would be erased from existence, and we're still here. She's like, the fact that we're still here means that Mom's still alive. And I'm like, didn't I say that? Like, didn't I legit say that? I'm the one that said that. But anyway, so, you know, then he kind of like stopped for a little bit, and then, you know, that's when Earbrob was like, you couldn't finish the job, and then he disappeared to go talk to the negative forces, you know, who brought him back because they needed an avatar, and they needed a 4th member to make their team strong. So now the whole team goes back to Star Labs, and they're trying to put their thoughts together, put some plans in together. Like Cecile, she was like, Barry, I can feel the anger oozing from you. And then, you know, he was just like, listen, we got to go get Thawne. And Chester did a scan of the city, and Thawne's nowhere in the city, so the only place Thawne could be hiding is the negative Speed Force. And then he was like, I'm going into the negative Speed Force, and I'm going to confront Thawne. And then, you know, Nora was just like, no, Dad, you can. And then he was just like, shut up. He killed your mom. And then Cecile was like, oh, Barry. She's like, I can feel, you know, like the anger. She's like, you want revenge. I'm like, what part of he killed Iris are we not getting in this room? Like, of course we want revenge. Like, Thawne has to go. So they came up with the whole tachyon thing where they were going to use the tachyon device, and they were going to use Mina as an anchor to put negative tachyons into Barry so he can enter the Speed Force. That didn't work because they weren't strong enough. And then after that, then Mina got upset, and then she was just like, oh, this is all my fault. And then she ran back to her laboratory, and she was going to destroy her machine. Barry went to go chase her down to stop her from destroying the machine. But before that happened, when Barry was talking to Cecile, she got spoken to by Bashir. He was talking to her, and it wasn't like negative Bashir, it was like our Bashir. And then he was talking to Cecile, and he was like, you're the only one that can save us, you're the only one that can save the forces. So then after Cecile had got that message, she ended up busting the other 2 psychics whose power she stole along with Chester and Allegra. They went down to CCC Media so Cecile could try to like reach out to the psych force. Meanwhile, Barry runs down to go stop Mina. And then after him and Mina had a little conversation, he decided, because he said that he was like, the rest of the team, they don't understand what we're going through. They don't understand how we feel. He said that if we can power up your machine, because the machine fuses people with negative tachyons, with negative Speed Force energy. So if we can infuse you with that negative energy, and then you can transfer your power to me, I can then enter the negative Speed Force. So that's what they did. She transferred her power over to Barry. Barry went into the Speed Force. Nora and Bart showed up. They were too late. And then by the time they got there, Barry was already gone. Barry goes into the negative Speed Force, and now he's looking for Thawne. When Thawne got there, he was confronted by the negative forces, and then he was like, so what's the plan? And then they were just like, we're gonna use you to take over the world and to dominate. And then he was just like, I just want to kill the Flash, and he was gonna leave. But then Dion was like, nope. He was like, you're the Avatar, and you're gonna do our bidding now because the forces are in control. And all three forces fused themselves into Thawne, and they powered him up. So when Barry got there, Thawne was just a lifeless statue, like an Avatar just doing nothing. And then they said that they actually got into him. They said that they used him, to be the force for them to power themselves up. And they said that during Armageddon, when Barry severed his connection from the negative force, he was like, we didn't even know that was possible. But then thanks to you, we found out that is possible. So now we're going to use Thawne, to power ourselves up, and we're going to tip the balance in our favor, and we're going to be the ones that are most powerful, of everybody. Then they kicked Barry out of the negative force. Barry went back to, he went back to the earthly plane, and then he was just like, it's all my fault. The forces are coming, and they're coming to kick our ass. So then after that, they powered up Thawne, and he had a very cool suit on. Like Thawne had like this, this buff black, like Flash looking suit on. He shows up on Earth, and now he's going around killing people and blasting people. He was like legitimately killing people. So to anybody that's just like, oh, there are no consequences, like Thawne legit killed like 5 people. So he was going around killing people, and then Barry, Nora, Bart, and Mina, like they all show up and they try to stop him, but they can't stop him because he's all too powerful. He sent the kids and Mina off like 2,000 billion years in the past, and then him and Barry proceeded to get they scrap on, and they were fighting throughout the city. Cecile now, she, so she got the gang all together. She got the girls together. She got Chester and Allegra backing her up. She used them to call out to Brazier. Because the thing is, all 3 of them are psychics and they have psychic powers. Bashir is the head of the psych force. He is the psych force. So it would make sense why you would use psychics to reach out to the psych force. And Bashir had said when the negative forces try to get rid of us, he said that he latched on to Cecile because of her untapped power and her untapped ability. So he lived on through Cecile. Cecile was his avatar, the same way Barry's the avatar for Speed Force Nora. And then he allowed her to be able to siphon other people's psychic powers. And he said that because she has the power now, she's strong enough to bring the other forces back. He said, you got to put my mask on, because he said once he puts the mask on, he'll be able to take all that psychic power for himself and then bring back the forces. So Cecile put the mask on, and then once she put the mask on, like she was going through like convulsions and everything, and Allegra powered up to try to stop the other 2 girls from interfering, and then she transferred the power to Bashir, and then Bashir, he ended up bringing back the forces, and all was right with the world. So now that Barry is about to fight Thawne, him and Thawne are getting into it. Thawne is actually, he's more powerful, he's quicker, he's faster, and he was like, you got to get your speed up, Barry. And then when he was about to blast Barry with lightning, his lightning froze, and then he was like, who's doing this? And then that's when the positive forces came back, and they're just like, yeah, we're back, Thawne. And he was just like, you can't stop me. Because now that the negative forces infused themselves with Thawne to make Thawne all powerful, the positive Speed Forces, along with Speed Force Nora, because she was back too, they all used themselves and infused themselves into Barry, and they powered Barry up, and now Barry's like the good version of, like he's like the more powerful, like, positive version, whereas like Thawne's the most powerful negative version. So now the 2 of them are going throughout the city, fighting, running, blasting, freezing, doing all this other stuff, and it was the exact same scene that we saw in the beginning of the season of The Flash with the whole Armageddon thing. Barry and Thawne at that moment, they were literally creating Armageddon that Desperado warned everybody about. He was like, you will create Armageddon Flash. And then, like that's exactly what happened with the 2 of them fighting, because even on the news, they were just like, oh, the Flash has engaged this negative speedster, but they're destroying the city. And then now everybody's on the TV watching Barry run amok, watching Barry run, all because he's like upset and he's angry over the fact that Iris died. Or so we thought, because Iris, she appeared in the Time Stone. And I've been saying from the beginning, the Time Stone was going to come into play at some point. Though I will say this, the whole thing about Damien Dark in the Armageddon crossover giving Joe the Time Stone, it would make you think that that Joe would have a significant impact in the outcome of the whole thing with the Time Stone. Come to find out, the Time Stone just decided that when Iris died, the Time Stone decided like, well, Iris isn't supposed to die yet because she still has things that she's supposed to do. So the Time Stone trapped her, the Time Stone absorbed her consciousness, and it put her consciousness into the Time Stone. So when Iris appeared in the Time Stone, she was there with Damien Dark because his consciousness is also in the Time Stone. Her and Damien Dark had a conversation, and she's like, am I dead? And then he was like, no, you're not dead. He was like, but you have 2 choices. You can either find your way back to the real world because you got more living to do, or you can spend eternity with good old Damien Dark, holler at your boy. Clearly she was like hells to the no. And she said, because she also said that she couldn't feel the connection with Barry anymore, but she was like, but then that's when Damien Dark was like, just because you don't feel the connection doesn't mean it's not there. So she reignited the spark, she ignites the fire, and then she was able to, get herself out of the time stone. And I miss Damien Dark, I'm just saying. Like, I miss Damien Dark. But none of that had anything to do with Joe. So basically the whole purpose of Damien Dark giving him the time stone was just so like Joe could keep it warm while the time stone does his thing. Joe did nothing with the time stone. And then Jay Garrick and Joan, they show up from the future, which is weird, but because there's still a version of them, like a Coast City. So the future version of them show up, and then when they show up from the future, they said that they were tracking Iris's tachyon particles, and they tracked it to the stone. And I'm like, so Joe continues to do absolutely nothing. And then they were just like, yeah, Iris is in the stone, and then the three of them did nothing. They just watched the stone light up, and then Iris eventually came out of the stone. Joe gave her a hug, and then when she saw on the news that Barry was tearing up the city, she told Jay Garrick, she was like, you got to take me there so I can help. I can save the city and save Barry. So Garrick takes her down to where the city is, and then Iris shows up. Barry sees her, and then she's like, you got to stop, because you trying to get revenge is actually creating Armageddon, and you're destroying the city. Then he looked around, and then he was like, ah, shit. Like, he's just like, yeah, she kind of right. So he told Thawne, he was like, get out of here. He's like, yo, Garrick, get her out of here. He was like, I'll take it from here, because that was the moment where I guess he kind of he realized the error of his ways. And then a la Wally West, because they've been talking about the Wally West meditation thing all season, and it finally came into play and they got some use out of it. He basically sat down in meditation style, and then he used the Wally West technique to the point where when Thawne tried to blast him, it didn't work and it went right through him. And then Thawne was trying to figure out, why isn't it working? He was like, why can't I destroy you? And then, he was like, ultimately, what it was that because Thawne couldn't see past his own, his own power, he didn't know how to reel it in. He didn't know how, he couldn't find the balance. Because Barry found the balance between using his power the right way and not creating destruction, he ended up being more powerful than Thawne, and he was able to, I guess, destroy Thawne, and then he was able to set things right. He rewound time, he brought everybody back, he repaired the city, and due to his, positivity and his meditation, he ended up saving the city, and he got rid of the negative forces, and he got rid of Thawne. Brought his kids back with the Thanos snap, and then, then when the kids back, and the kids were back, and then Mia was back, the city was safe, and then all was well. So now everybody's back at the loft, they're all talking, and then, Barry apologized for being an ass to his children, and they were just like, don't worry, Dad. And then they went back to the future along with the Garricks. Mina, basically, she was like, I ain't got no speed, I ain't got no man. What I'm saying? But I'm like, well, you were dying, right? You had a heart disease, and now you don't have a heart disease, so some good came out of all this. They gave her Earbart Thawne's tie, so they could remember him, so she could remember him by. And then Mina left, and then she was like, if you guys ever need help from Fast Track Labs, please call. And then, she dipped and she went off into the sunset. Chester said that everything with Cecile went back to normal. She had her psychic power back. And then he also said that the other two girls got their psychic power back, and they immediately put the other girl back in the Iron Heights. So he was like, how they got their powers back, everything's right with that. And then Cecile was just basically going on saying how she missed being all powerful, but we have to remember now, she is the Psych Force avatar now. So, because she's the Psych Force avatar, she did quote unquote level up, as they've been saying all season on The Flash, to the point where when her and Chester accidentally had the wrong coffee, she used her new psychic powers, her enhanced psychic powers, levitate Chester's coffee over to her. So we're just like, oh shit, now she has levitation powers. And to be honest, it's kind of about time, because if she has psychic powers, if she's like the avatar for the Psych Force, levitivity, levitivity comes along with psychic powers. So it was only a matter of time before she was able to levitate stuff. So that was long overdue. So some stuff's going on with Cecile. I think Cecile's gonna be a problem in season 9, because now that she got all these powers, I legit think she's gonna try to go outside and fight crime. It's gonna cause this whole big thing with Team Flash. So that's something for us to look forward to. And then in the end, Barry and Iris, that they were in the loft, and then they was about to get their free go. And that's another thing. Speaking of getting your free go on, Chester and Allegra just need to do it already, because I'm sick of that. But anyway, they were talking, and then Iris had mentioned. I thought Iris was going to say something like, Bart and Nora, they're great kids. What are we waiting for? Let's start the family. And they was going to get it on. But as we all know, Barry don't know what to do with that. But anyway, he was like, she mentioned the negative Speed Force was going to have to choose a new avatar. And it took us back to 2049. And it took us to some laboratory in 2049 where it showed us a blue crystal. I don't know what the blue crystal represents, but it obviously has to do with a speedster in the future or whatever. But then Barry was like, well, whoever the negative Speed Force chooses as the avatar, Team Flash will be ready and we'll take them down like we take down everybody else. So there's going to be like another negative Speed Force villain from the future in season 9 because that whole crystal thing has to amount to something. Killer Frost is still a thing. And this was very weird to me because Blaine was asleep on the table. And then he started getting a signal on the computer that the pod was malfunctioning. Because remember, Katie had went into the pod in a previous episode. When he went over to the pod and then he opened the pod, he looked inside of it and then he was just like, Frost. And then he looks at her and goes, well, who are you? And I thought it was weird that why did he call for Frost and not Katie? Because is it a thing where both of them are separated now and Katie somewhere else and Frost was in the chamber and turned into a different person? Because it was just very weird to me why he would open the door and yell out Frost and not say Caitlin. And then it's like for him to be like, who are you? What the hell does she look like? Like how much because when she spoke, it was clearly Caitlin's voice when she spoke. How different can she possibly? That whole thing was weird. Like, how different could Caitlin possibly look to the point where he's calling Frost and then he's like, who are you? So I hope we get that question answered immediately because that was weird. Like the way the whole thing was handled was weird and I was very confused. So we'll see who, I don't know what to call it. I was about to call it Killer Frost or Caitlin. Like whoever this new person is, we'll see what they have. Maybe it's Emma Frost. I don't know. But we'll see what this person does because he was just like, who are you? And he was like, are you a friend or something? No, she was like, I'm a friend, I think, whatever. And I'm just like, here we go. So, yeah, that's going to be a thing. That's definitely going to be a thing. And that was it for season 8 of The Flash. And thank you for tuning in. So, yeah, Barry's all powerful now. And they kind of put the bow on a lot of things. There's no drama. Oh, and another thing, the girl who lost her mama, like, I don't even know why. I don't understand why this was even a story because we thought that when that girl used her power, we thought she was the reason why Iris disappeared. Come to find out it was the negative forces manipulating things all along. The girl basically did nothing. There was no point to her mom being trapped in the still force. The girl served no purpose. Her power served no purpose. And then when Barry brought her, when she went back to CC Media and then Barry brought back her mom, I'm like, I forgot all about this shit because it meant absolutely nothing. So, so they put a bow on that, unnecessarily. The other thing I'm really looking forward to, share your thoughts below. Let me know who your MVP was for this particular season of The Flash. I gotta say, I kind of feel, I want to say Cecile. Because Cecile was the most interesting thing coming out of this entire season, this entire episode. We know because Jesse L. Martin that plays Joe West, he's taking a short, he might not even be in this show next season, but he's been taking like a more limited role because, he had some health issues and everything. And they basically substituted him with Cecile, like anything that Joe was going to do, Cecile ended up doing. And I'm very interested in what Cecile's going to do. So I definitely want to see that. And I feel like Cecile was the MVP for the season for me. It's crazy to think that this season of The Flash started with the Armageddon crossover and then ended up coming back full circle where Armageddon got referenced, so that was nice. But again, aside from Cecile and Killer Frost and the blue crystal thingy with the Avatar, there's really nothing that special to talk about. As I said, they put the bow on it. It was done very well. I appreciate it, and I salute The Flash. So share your questions, your comments, and your thoughts down below. Hit me up on Twitter and or Instagram. Let me know what you think about what's going on, because right now we're trying to conclude Miss Marvel on the channel, because Miss Marvel has about 2 episodes to go, and then Harley Quinn is supposed to start at the end of July, so I am going to review Harley Quinn for all you Harley Quinn fans, and then I'm still waiting for that Doom Patrol, and then unfortunately, the She-Hulk. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So till next season, well, we're going to review Stargirl when Stargirl comes out in the fall, and then Superman and Lois and then The Flash, they're going to resume probably in January. So until January, I guess, for some Flash action, check out my channel for some more other superhero news, whether DC or Marvel. And for the final time, until next time, I'll be back in The Flash in about this